Hi guys. Honestly, I don't even know how to start this video. This is not a video that I ever thought that I would have to make. I don't think anyone assumes that they would go through this, but as I'm sure you can tell by the title of this video, I have recently went through a miscarriage, and I didn't think I would already be crying, but here we are. We're just gonna have to work through the emotions of this video because it's an emotional topic. It's been really hard the last couple weeks, and I'm gonna get into everything because you guys didn't know I was pregnant, and I, was planning on sharing that around the time that I'm now having to share quite literally the opposite of what I wanted to. But I guess I just wanted to start off with why I'm making this video. In everyday life, I don't think, every single woman who experiences a miscarriage feels the need to sit down and announce it to the world. And I don't need to do that either. I could very well just hide this, act like it never happened, take a week off of YouTube and dive right back in and pretend like I was fine and I just took a break. But for me, that's not what I wanted to do. I just have never gone through something like this, and I felt so alone. I didn't know what to expect, and there's just so many emotions that come along with this process. And the number one thing that helped me get through this and grasp onto a little bit of normalcy or hope was simply hearing other people's stories. So ultimately, that's why I'm making this video. I hate that I had to go through this, but by experiencing this, if I can help somebody out there, then I feel like I should do that. So yeah, if you have clicked this, if you have experienced this in the past, if you're experiencing it now and that's how you found my video, first of all, I'm so sorry that you're having to go through this, and just know that literally if I could send you all of the love and hugs and just strength in the world, I would. I hope by hearing my story that it'll give you a little bit of peace or comfort knowing that you're not alone. And this is common, as much as I wish it wasn't. And hopefully you can just, learn a little bit more, feel peace with your situation, and possibly start the grieving process by watching videos like this one. So that's why I'm making this video. And on top of the fact that, like I said, I don't see how I can go through something like this and not share it when I post so much of my life online, and that is a huge part of my job. This changed me in a way, and it definitely changed the way that I look at pregnancy and starting a family and everything like that. So if I do plan to share that in the future, if we're blessed to have a family one day, then I don't see how I could really share my journey without you guys knowing what I've already been through, because unfortunately this changes things. Having your first pregnancy end in a miscarriage definitely changes things. And that's sad, and it sucks. It sucks so bad, but it is what it is, and that's just gonna be part of our story now. So first, I just want to tell you guys about when we decided to start trying to have a baby, when I found out, all of that kind of stuff. We knew in 2022 that we wanted to try to start a family. I started tracking my ovulation in December, and that was the only month that I tracked it because we wound up pregnant. The very first time that I've tracked ovulation and, we were trying to conceive, we ended up being pregnant, and I just didn't expect that. We were so over the moon and excited. The very first positive pregnancy test I got was on January 15th, and I filmed myself finding out that I was pregnant, so I'll try to insert that clip here maybe. I'm not really sure what to do with those videos anymore because they were really happy memories, and now they're really sad, so I might put them in this video just to do something with them. All right, you guys, it's been 3 minutes. Okay. I did not. I did not think it would happen this fast, which is a good thing. Like, we're so blessed, but Patrick is gonna freak out. I don't know why I'm whispering. I'm home alone. I mean, those are serious lines. That's not a maybe. That's a for freaking sure. for freaking sure. I honestly did not think that I would be emotional. I really didn't. And I understand like how blessed we are that it happened so fast for us, because I know it's not like that for everybody. Patrick was golfing, so I got onesies at Target that day and made one that says "Hi Daddy," and I gave it to Patrick and told him, and we were really, really excited. Like I said, we didn't expect it to happen that quickly, and it was just awesome. Here is what I made. This turned out really good. Very happy with it. And then the test from Target. Okay.
Are you serious? I'm a dad. You're lying. I'm a dad. I'm a dad. Oh my god. Oh my god. When did you take this?
Today.
When did you get this?
Today. I mean, I made it. I got
You made this?
Yeah.
Woo!
Okay.
Y'all have no clue what's going on, but you're gonna have a little baby in the house.
And at that point, I was about 4 weeks, I think. So we called, we made an appointment, and at the doctor that we will see, they don't let you come in until like 8 to 9 weeks if it's your first pregnancy and you've had no experience with miscarriages before or any concerns. I didn't know you had to wait that long. Like I said, first pregnancy, we didn't know anything. We did decide to go ahead and tell our families, even though we wouldn't have had our first appointment yet. We did this because we felt like even if we were to go through something, even if something horrible were to happen, we would probably tell those people anyways. So that's why we ultimately decided to go ahead and tell our families. So we told my family on a ski trip. We all went on a ski trip, or not everybody, but direct family, and the ones who weren't there, I was able to FaceTime them and tell them. And it was really exciting and just super cute and fun. So I believe when we told my family was around January 28th, I want to say. And since it had been a couple weeks since I took my previous pregnancy tests and I was going to show my family one, at least the people on FaceTime, to let them know, hey, I'm pregnant, I took another one on that trip. I remember it freaked me out because the test line was really dark, but the control line was really faint. I was like, does this mean my levels are dropping? Like, what does this mean? The more I researched it, everyone was like, that just means you're really pregnant. It's called a dye stealer. Basically, your HCG levels are so high that it's stealing the dye from the control line and putting it into the test line. So I was feeling good. I was like, oh my gosh, what a relief. That just confirmed it even more that my HCG levels were going up as they should without having them tested. So we get home from the ski weekend and I am anxious. I don't know why. I'm just like anxious about like, what if something's wrong? And we tell Patrick's family, and this would be their first grandchild on their side of the family. I was just like, before we tell them, I want to get my blood work done to test my HCG levels. So I call and they're like, we don't really do that. Like, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket for it, which it's like $15. So I was like, I don't care. I just would really like to come in. They ultimately do let me come in for lab work, and that was on February 1st. And they called me that day with results, and my HCG levels were 30,190, I think. She said, congratulations, that's great. It's right in line with 6 to 7 weeks, so you're doing great. I felt a little bit at ease with that answer. So we do tell Patrick's family that week. They're all ecstatic for us as well. We celebrate with them, and it was great. And as far as like symptoms go, the very first symptom I had was just really sore boobs. Like, my boobs were so sore. I remember before I went to bed on January 14th, my boobs hurt so bad. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I might be pregnant. So honestly, that was like my first symptom, and that persisted all the way through. By the 6-week mark, I was definitely nauseous here and there. It wasn't like severe nausea like I've heard some people have, but I did have, I would say, like bouts of nausea like once a day. I would feel like nauseous a lot of times before I would eat. I was super fatigued. I mean, just so tired all the time. Peeing a lot more. Had definite like food, I wouldn't really say food cravings, but certain foods I did not want at all. Like, food aversions were definitely there. When you feel all those symptoms, you're like, okay, I'm good. Life goes on, and we're just waiting for our first appointment. I'm so excited, but also really nervous, just because I don't know why. I just was so nervous too. And our first ultrasound was scheduled for February 15th, exactly 1 month from the day I found out. About a few days before our appointment, I just remember getting like really anxious. Like, I don't know why. Like, some days I wouldn't feel pregnant and some days I would have a ton of symptoms. And it was just super weird. The Friday before our ultrasound, Patrick and I went out for a Valentine's dinner. And I remember telling him that night that that whole day I was so anxious, like all day. And literally, you guys, the word blighted ovum, which is basically a miscarriage where there was no embryo that grew, that word literally kept popping into my head throughout the entire day. It is the weirdest thing. You know, hindsight's 2020. That could have just been me being nervous and reading about stuff that I really shouldn't have been reading about on my app that I was on and just on the internet, of course. But looking back, I think that's super weird. And I remember telling him at this dinner that that just kept popping into my head. And of course, you know, he's like, you're crazy, not in a mean way, but just being like, don't overthink it. Like, you're just getting in your head. Like, that's a very small chance and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know why, I'm just like really nervous. So that's just an interesting little side note. But then Tuesday comes around, we meet for our ultrasound. Patrick meets me at the doctor from work and we're in the waiting room and I'm just telling him about how nervous I am. And he's like, don't be nervous. And he's holding my hand and he snapped a picture of us in the waiting room. I saw him type out a message to his family with the picture. And I don't know why, but I said, can you wait until after the appointment to send that? I don't know. I just was really nervous. And now looking back, that's such an odd thing that I made him wait to send that to his family. And he erased it and was like, yeah, sure. And I'm glad that I did say that because that would have been awkward. I just think it's interesting how things like that happen. Like, you know, was my mind really already knowing what was happening and it was trying to give me a signal or something by me being anxious? Or are all first-time moms anxious? You know, I don't know. And I guess I'll know, you know, if I get pregnant again and I don't have that anxiety and it feels different, I'll know if it was intuition or just coincidence or just normal anxiety. You never know, but I just think that's so odd. And so anyways, we get called back to our ultrasound and it's a transvaginal ultrasound. I'm supposed to be 8 weeks, 6 days, which is basically 9 weeks. She's just looking around. Like I said, this is our first time, so we have no idea what we're looking for. I say, does everything look good? And she says, I'm just taking pictures right now. So I'm like, okay, like I don't say anything at that point. And then she zooms in a little bit and starts explaining, this is the gestational sac, this is the yolk sac. Then she says, you're supposed to be around 9 weeks. And I was like, yeah, 8 weeks and 6 days. And she's like, well, it's measuring more around 6 weeks. So, you know, it might be fine, but I'm gonna let the experts look at it. Your doctor will talk to you. You know, you can get dressed and go and wait for her in the waiting room. And I just remember when she walked out of the room, Patrick was on my left side and I just looked at him and went, like, I just started crying and I knew, you know, like, there's no way. Patrick's trying to be supportive and he's saying like, she just said it herself. She's not the expert. Like, just wait until the doctor sees it. You know, it could be fine. Like, we don't know. I'm very much so a realist. And to me, logically, it just didn't make sense. Even if we were at 6 weeks, we probably still would have been able to see a heartbeat. Not always, but she didn't show a heartbeat or anything. So I just had a feeling that there wasn't one. And by the look on her face, I felt like she already knew what was going on. She just couldn't tell us. So anyways, we wait in the waiting room and I'm trying to hold back tears because I don't want to look crazy in this doctor's office, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. You can tell I'm crying for sure. The nurse practitioner that my appointment was with, her nurse or something, this other lady comes and gets me and takes me back to her office. Me and Patrick, by the way, he was there the whole time. I remember this lady says, Kayla and Patrick, and so we stand up to walk with her and she says, good morning, or I guess I should just say morning. And I was like, who says that to somebody? And listen, I don't know if she was saying that because she already knew it was bad news or if she was saying that because she could tell I was crying. But when she said that, my mind immediately went to, it's over. And she takes me back to the room and she asks me a few questions, like 3 or 4 questions, and every single one of the questions is about cramping, which I hadn't had. I was getting frustrated because I felt like everyone knew around me, but no one wanted to say. So at that point, that nurse leaves and I tell Patrick, like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know what's going on here. I was really upset. And then finally, my actual nurse practitioner, I believe is what she is, she's who I would see for my first pregnancy appointment. And then after that appointment, I would go to my normal OB doctor. She walks in and I'm like, as soon as I see her, like I lose it just because I felt like I knew what she was gonna say. So basically she comes in and just explains the ultrasound a little bit more, says that it's measuring more at 6 weeks instead of 9 weeks. She asks if my dates are correct with my last period. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. That is the day that I got my period. She said, well, I mean, you could have ovulated late, you know, that's always a possibility, but you know, it is 3 weeks behind. So I think she did say, I don't see this being a viable pregnancy. And I'm just a mess. Patrick and I don't know what to say or ask. I mean, we have no clue what's going on. At this point, you know, she's like, have you had any spotting or cramping? I'm like, no, I've had nothing. Like, I've had no idea. Like, you go up to this appointment with a miscarriage. I mean, you literally go all the way thinking it's fine. Everything's fine. You feel pregnant. Your body still thinks you're pregnant. And she even said to me in that appointment that day, she said, I mean, there's no doubt about it, you're pregnant. It's just what happened. So it sucks because your body still thinks that you're pregnant when there's nothing growing. She wants to get lab work to compare my HCG levels to ones from 2 weeks prior, which were 30,000. I'm hysterical, so she has the lab people come into the room, which was nice. I appreciated that because I didn't want to walk all around this office like crying my eyes out, you know? And so they come in, they take blood work, we immediately leave, and we're just absolutely devastated. Just devastated. I truly did not think it was possible to cry as much as I cried those next 2 days. I was just in a really dark place. I just had never experienced sadness like that before. They told us that day that they would call us with the lab results to see what my HCG levels were. And if they were still going up, then it could be possibly good news. But if they had went down, then we knew for sure what was going on. We get in the car. Patrick has remained calm and collected this entire time. And he gets in my car with me because remember we had drove separate, and he broke down crying with me. And we just sat there for a minute just crying. And we had already told our families. So our parents mostly wanted to know how the appointment went. On the way home, I call my mom. She can obviously tell something's wrong because I'm like bawling my eyes out. My parents meet us at our house just to kind of be comforting. So they came over and stayed for about like a couple hours probably. So my parents left. We eventually get the phone call. I actually had to call the doctor though because they didn't call me. I get the nurse and she's like, she's left for the day, but she did put a note here that your HCG levels are 40,000. So she wants you to come in next week for an ultrasound. And so they schedule that. At that point, Patrick's hopeful. My parents are hopeful. I have like a tiny inkling of hope, but in my heart, since Tuesday, the 15th, I've known. I think that was hard for like my family to see and Patrick because number one, I took it really hard and I don't think they like seeing me upset, you know, but also they did still have hope. And I knew it probably wasn't possible based on the dates and everything. And I mean, my levels had only went up 10,000 in 2 weeks. It didn't seem right. At that point, we're just kind of at a standstill and we're just grieving. Patrick's parents came over later that night because he had told them immediately after the appointment as well. So they brought us dinner that night. I'm over here on the internet looking at other people's stories. Like, has this happened to anyone else? Has there been a success story where someone is 3 weeks ahead of what they thought? That's extremely rare. And the main thing that made me know for sure it was basically impossible is when I got my first positive pregnancy test. It was January 15th. And for me at that point to be 6 weeks along and me to have had that positive pregnancy test, and it wasn't a faint line. I mean, it was a straight up positive pregnancy test, big fat positive. For me to get that on January 15th would have been impossible. It would have been some crazy miracle if I really was just behind and everything was still growing as normal. So I tried to explain that to Patrick and, you know, everybody. I'm like, I just kept saying, I don't see how this ends well for us. I'm not going to be like dark and pessimistic all the time, but I'm just gonna like look at the facts. And I mean, facts are facts. We can hope and we can pray all we want, and don't get me wrong, I did that. I don't talk about it a whole lot, but we do have Christian values and we do believe in God and we do believe in prayer, and don't get me wrong, we did all of that. But at the end of the day, no amount of hoping and praying is going to take away the scientifical facts of pregnancy and my body. Even though I knew it was probably going to end in a miscarriage, reading other women's stories helped me tremendously. Just to know that this does sometimes happen on a first pregnancy, and it's a one-time thing, and the next time is perfect and you have a beautiful baby. It's helped knowing what this process looks like. How long does it take? What happens? And I did most of that on the What to Expect app, which I got when I found out I was pregnant. And they have a community tab there. And I highly recommend that. Even if you're not pregnant now, but you've experienced a miscarriage, that's really a good place to be. It can also be triggering though, because some people are currently going through miscarriages and have questions and all of that stuff. But that community on that app helped me tremendously in my grieving process. So I'm really thankful to have had that, and to just have a place where I knew I could go, where I could talk to other women who were literally currently going through the exact same thing. And it's crazy how common it actually is. I mean, you're told that, but I mean, so many of these women were going through exactly what I was going through at the same time. Like, some of them had periods the same day. Some of them had positive pregnancy tests the same day. Some of them had the exact same ultrasound day as me. But anyways, so I was looking on there, and honestly, the news was not looking great from a lot of the other women that were in the same situation. And on Wednesday, I ended up telling my sister-in-laws, because both of them have been through pregnancy. They went to the same doctor as me. They know all of the nurses and doctors there, and they were super supportive, and they really encouraged me to call my doctor back and ask for additional blood work, because they were like, Wednesday is so long, like how are you gonna wait until Wednesday for another ultrasound? Like, that's so long. And I agreed. On Thursday I did call, and at that point I was in a much better place to be able to ask the questions that I had. I was able to keep it together, and I basically just asked her, what is your opinion on this? And she said, to be honest, it's not looking good. Said, I don't really see this being a viable pregnancy. She said, I'm not ever gonna say 100% one way or the other, because it's not a perfect science. I said, well, is there any way that I can come in and get additional blood work? Because at this point, I feel like we're delaying the inevitable. And so she was like, of course, you can come in for blood work tomorrow. And she's like, if your HCG levels have went down, we know the answer, and we can kind of decide what we're gonna do from there. I went on Friday for another blood test, and they did that. My mom went with me because Patrick had to go to work that day. We went to Target, we had lunch, and she hung out with me when we got back to the house until I got that phone call. So when she does call finally in the afternoon, she tells me that my HCG levels were 40,000 when I was there on Tuesday, and I tested again on Friday and they were 38,000. So unfortunately, my levels had gone down, and that was a pretty clear answer. You know, it's going to end in miscarriage. So at this point, we need to discuss options on how you want to go about dealing with that. Once again, like, when you find out you're pregnant, you never, ever, ever sit there and consider that you might be on the phone with your doctor talking about how you're going to pass this baby. And it's just really, really eerie talking about that. But basically, the options are letting it happen naturally, or getting prescribed the stuff that kind of speeds up the natural miscarrying process, or you can opt for a D&C surgery. And at this point, I had researched a lot about these options. She asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I'm leaning towards doing a D&C surgery because I had been on TikTok and YouTube and all of these places hearing about other women who have went through miscarriage. And I am like such a baby about medical stuff and blood and everything anyways. So that was like my biggest fear, is having to witness that. Like, emotionally, this was like one of the most traumatic things that I've went through, and I just couldn't do seeing everything pass also on top of it. So for me, I was leaning towards the D&C as long as she felt like that was safe. She said, yeah, if you feel like you would be emotionally traumatized by that, then I think the D&C would be a good option. She also recommended this because my body had no clue. I had no cramping, no bleeding. My HCG levels were still at 38,000. So she told me that if I wanted to wait for it to happen naturally, I might be waiting a long time. It could be up to a month that I would just be anxiously wondering when this was gonna happen. So ultimately I decided to do a D&C surgery, and my doctor, Dr. Curtis, who would perform that, was on call Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So she said, I'll get you in one of those days. And I was like, well, what do I do about my ultrasound that I had scheduled for Wednesday? She basically said HCG levels going down only means one thing, but she said if it would make you feel better and give you a little bit of peace of mind, I can squeeze in an ultrasound for you on Monday, just so you see everything again. You see that there's no growth and you feel 100% confident in this decision. So that's what we did. And honestly, after that phone call with her, like I said, my mom was still here at my house. After remaining calm on the phone, I had a breakdown and just processed a lot of like emotions that I was feeling with my mom here. Patrick got home. I told him, we processed, you know, things together as well. I actually had to go take a COVID test that day though, like by 6 p.m. because I had to have it for surgery on Wednesday. So we did that and we just kind of did jigsaw puzzles and played board games, kind of keep our minds off of things. Watched Encanto, which is a great movie. But I would just suggest if you are going through this to like find things like that to do alone, because I know for me, I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want to chance getting really emotional in public. I wanted to be at home, but I would really encourage you, if you do want to be at home, still find things that you can do within your home that are distracting you somewhat. I'm not saying that you should distract yourself completely and not feel the emotions, because you need to feel the emotions, but at the same time, you go crazy sitting there if you just think about it 24/7. Like there was a point in those first few days where I told Patrick, I'm like, crying physically hurts me right now because it's just so much crying. Like I've never cried that much in my life. Anyways, that was Friday. We wait until Monday, go in for our ultrasound. The ultrasound technician was a little bit nicer this day because, to be honest, on our first ultrasound, I did not like this lady. I felt like she was rude and not comforting at all. And she was, of course, the one who did our ultrasound on Monday, but she was a little bit better. Maybe she was just having a bad day the first day, but I don't know. If you're an ultrasound technician, let me know how this works. Like, are you allowed to say something or not? I don't know. They must not be allowed to say anything, but I just felt like she could have been way more comforting or like said anything else. But honestly, me being in that first ultrasound room with her was a very traumatic experience for me that I don't think I'll ever forget. She seemed very cold, and I get that that was her job, but it still is not very nice to receive. Had the ultrasound, she did explain a little bit more about what things were and just said that unfortunately it was still measuring the same. There was no growth. I asked her if there was an embryo or was it a blighted ovum, and her and my doctor agreed that there was like a tiny little beginning of an embryo, but it had just stopped growing at 6 weeks. And I just said, okay, we just wanted to make sure. And she said, of course, absolutely. We go and talk to the nurse practitioner that I was seeing. She basically just said, you know, it wasn't a perfect match. Something was off and this happens a lot. She really encouraged us that this is not something that we should be anxious about next time, that a lot of times it's a one-time thing. So talking to her was comforting. And at that point I had basically a week to grieve. And so I felt better talking to her, being able to ask questions. Now I'll get into the D&C surgery itself and what that looks like in case that is what you were opting for. Because I know I had a lot of questions, especially being a first pregnancy. I had no idea what any of this was. I still, up until the day of my D&C surgery, had no cramping or bleeding. I don't know. I felt my symptoms kind of fading as my HCG levels were going down, but other than that, there was literally no signs that something was wrong. I was terrified that I was going to start miscarrying at home and having to go through that pain and see it. I just did not want to. So I was really anxious until Wednesday when I had my surgery. And I know I've heard a lot of stories. I know it can be different for everyone. And I know some people say it's not that bad. Some people say it's horrible. So if you preferred doing that naturally and being in your house and all of that, I respect that too. This was totally just my decision. Every woman is different. And for the surgery, it was very quick, easy, and painless. So that's kind of what I'll get out of the way at first. I got there at 9:30 in the morning. They called us back probably by 9:45. They just called me back. My husband wasn't allowed to go at that point, but they said that they were going to come get him like a little bit later. So they basically, you know, get me in the gown. I'm all undressed and everything in a bed. They're asking me a bunch of questions and stuff that I answer. And then they try to get an IV in me because they have to put me to sleep with anesthesia, which, by the way, unless you like have already done it before, I would never, ever, 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 ever do this surgery not being under anesthesia, because I've read some horror stories about the trauma that some women have experienced having to go through this, being awake and hearing everything. So yeah, for me, 100% wanted to be asleep and not remember a thing. The first nurse that I had was awesome, but she had to go on lunch break. So she goes on lunch break and this other nurse fills in for her, who honestly, I really don't think she knows what she was doing. She was having a bad day. She was really frustrated, was talking to herself, like being like, oh my God, And she kept taking her mask off because she said she was sweating or something. I don't know. But anyway, so did not get good vibes from her. So she tries to stick me for an IV. She first tries to stick me over here. It does not work. I hate getting stuck by needles. I hate blood. I hate all of it. So she's doing that over here. I'm looking this way, talking to the anesthesiologist who's just going over like everything with me, making me sign a consent form. So she doesn't get it over here. So she's like, I'm gonna move over to this arm. And this is what I'm left with from that, which is actually getting better today, but this is the biggest bruise that I think I've had like in my adult life. But she tries to get it over here and she can't. She's like getting frustrated, and then the second anesthesiologist walks up and they're just like moving it around while it's in there, trying to get a vein, and they're like, yeah, it's not like the best, but I think it'll work for what we need. And they're just like moving it around and everything, and it hurts so bad, and I am like starting to panic, and he feels it and he's like, oh no, that's infiltrated, we can't use that, we can't use that. So they take it out, and at this point I'm like, oh my god, like I can't handle being stuck again and again and again and again. So I was like freaking out. He asked me if I was nauseous. I was like a little bit, like I don't like this stuff. So he gave me a nausea patch that he put behind my ear, and instead of the nurse doing it, he went to get an ultrasound machine to find my vein because I was so dehydrated, because they tell you you're not supposed to drink water. So anyways, he gets the ultrasound machine, he numbs me. So I have another bruise here. So they tried to get my IV there as well. But I mean, he was super nice, don't get me wrong. He was trying his best to like make me comfortable and make it as painless as possible. This nurse, not so much. But anyway, so he gets the ultrasound, he's going in there, trying to get it to work and everything, and it doesn't. So he takes it out and he's like, I'm gonna try again on this arm. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to freak out. And about that time, my original nurse walks in, just got back from her lunch break. She calls for Patrick to come back, which made me feel better. She was like, I called for your husband to come back. And I was like, great, yay. I was nervous that he wasn't gonna get to come back before I went back for surgery. So Patrick comes, she starts looking at my hand and she's like, what did they do? Stick you a bunch of times? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, I think I see a vein right here in your hand. And she starts like tapping it. She asks the anesthesiologist, she's like, well, do you want me to just try? Like, I think I see a vein right here. And he's like, I mean, I guess I was just gonna go do another ultrasound on her other, like on this arm. And so she tries it and she gets it on the very first try right here in my hand. And I was like, oh my God, I could like kiss you on the forehead right now, because I did not want to be stuck again. And so they got my IV working. And from that point, everything was pretty much smooth sailing. That probably won't happen for you. I think that was just like a me thing. You know, every situation's different. But I just wanted to tell you guys all that because literally the worst part of everything was just them trying to get an IV in me. That was it. That was the worst part of it. Because after that, really, my doctor, Dr. Curtis, came and talked to us, my husband and I. She was so sweet, so compassionate, and explained to us what the surgery, what they were doing. They would dilate the cervix and basically use suction to get everything out. Patrick leaves, they wheel me back for surgery. She had me start talking about our honeymoon and us going to Bora Bora, and she was like, just picture your happy place, just picture that you're there right now. And then bam, I wake up an hour later or whatever. When I did wake up, I was coughing a lot because you have a breathing tube. My lip was swollen. I don't know if you guys can see, but I bit my lip somehow during surgery. So I remember waking up and being like, what's wrong with my lip? What's wrong with my lip? And she's like, oh yeah, you probably bit it during surgery. So I remember that. And just having a really sore throat, like my whole mouth was just sore, which they told me that would happen because of the breathing tube. And they wait for me to like be able to sit up and like look around and whatever. And then they wheel me to the second recovery area where my husband is able to come. So at this point, Patrick's with me. I'm having some pretty bad cramping at this point. So they give me an oxycodone and a Toradol, which is just an anti-inflammatory. And I'm exhausted. So that kind of makes me fall asleep. They make sure I'm able to get up and pee one time before I leave, and peeing went well. It was fine. I was bleeding at that point, not a lot though, just a little bit really. They gave us our checkout information and they were like, here's your follow-up appointment with your doctor. And today is Saturday, by the way, and I had my D&C on Wednesday. So yeah, I got home. I honestly felt pretty good that night, probably because of the pain medication they gave me. They didn't prescribe me anything, by the way, because they just encourage you to take Tylenol, ibuprofen, things like that. Thursday was definitely crampy, and I honestly was not bleeding at all Wednesday night or really most of Thursday. And I started bleeding a little bit more on Thursday night, and then I've been bleeding kind of ever since then, but not a lot at all. Like it's more so just spotting. Like for me, it's lighter than my normal period, but I know that is different for everyone. So don't be alarmed if you bleed more or less or don't bleed at all, whatever. Anyways, the cramping has been a little bit more severe than I expected. Today I felt really good though. So today's Saturday, like I said, and it's 5 o'clock. I haven't taken any pain medication today. I felt pretty good. So I'm hoping that it's easing up because yesterday, like last night, the cramps were pretty bad. And then the night before that, at nighttime, they were pretty bad. So I've noticed that they get worse at night for some reason. And they almost feel like contractions. I've never given birth or been through labor. So I'm not saying they're as bad as labor contractions, but just the way in which they come, they're kind of like consistent in timing and pretty intense. Like I would say more intense than my normal period cramps. So anyways, that's where we're at right now. I'm basically 3 days post D&C surgery. Physically, I'm doing better, and emotionally, I've been really good. There are definitely times where I'll just kind of get like a wave of sadness, and then like talking about it, obviously, like when I'm filming this video, I get pretty sad at some points, but we're doing our best to accept that it's happening. You know, it is so totally out of our control. I've learned that it's not about the perfect plan. Life doesn't sit around and do what you want it to do. You know, I was so sad that my first pregnancy will always have a negative connotation. And I remember talking about that and how that just like crushed me because I was just so excited to do all this stuff, and I actually wrote down a couple of notes the first couple of days of just like thoughts that I had. So I wrote this down probably like the second day that I found out, and I wrote, "More than anything, what hurts for me is feeling like my first pregnancy, something that should be exciting and happy, was stolen and the rug was swept from right underneath me. Those moments of me first telling my husband and our families are now tainted by the reminder of what never happened. And now new moments will be scarred by trauma and fear. It'll never be the same. Like every time I think about anything, you know, I'm gonna think about the trauma that I've experienced. And my next pregnancy, like I'm just gonna be waiting and waiting and waiting for something bad to happen, I feel like, and just being so anxious." And like I said, the little moments that are cute and you tell your family, you tell your husband, I just felt like those would never be the same. But then I would think about it and I'd be like, maybe that's what God was trying to tell me though. Maybe he's trying to say, guess what, Kayla? That doesn't matter. I think sometimes, especially on social media, we can get caught up with what other people are doing. And this girl had the cutest video telling her husband and her family and this, that, and the other. Not that any of this was for social media, trust me, you know what I mean though, but like Patrick and I wanted this so bad. But just social media can really amplify those feelings of guilt or jealousy or seeing triggering things or anything. I guess I learned that it's so much more than that. Yes, those things will be tainted, and yes, I will be more anxious, I'm sure, and it won't ever be the exact same. But what matters is you're bringing a new life into this family. You're creating a family. You know, I'm creating a family with the man that I married, who I know one day will be an incredible father. And that's what it's about. It's not about other people. It's not about telling other people. It's not about posting it on social media. It's not about any of that. It's just about life. It's about life, you know, and creating life. And although this was a horrific experience and something, like I said, that I don't wish on anybody, it definitely makes you realize how precious life is. Our story will look different. This is always going to be a part of our journey to having a family. It's hard to find a silver lining at some points, but if I can see a bright side at all, it's that next time around, we will be so grateful and thankful and blessed to have a healthy baby eventually, you know? I mean, that's literally all that will matter to us in the end. And although the cute little videos might not be the same and we might be more anxious at her ultrasound and all that stuff, it's just gonna make every positive ultrasound, every positive reaction that much better. I know that, you know, eventually that will be in the cards for us, hopefully, you know, and when that moment comes, it'll be that much more special, and I can't wait to share it with you guys, and hopefully you'll be right there alongside with me with a rainbow baby, you know? If you're going through the same thing, I hope that you can find those little silver linings and those little moments that you can look forward to, and lean on your partner for support, lean on your family for support, surround yourself with support. That is one thing about going through something like this, is like you truly see the people that you have in your corner, the people who are coming out and wanting to do things for you, wanting to help you in any way that they can, wanting to just be there with you, cry with you, laugh with you when you want to laugh again, you know? And that has been incredible. Like, I get emotional just thinking about how awesome everyone everyone in our lives have been. Like, our parents are just so supportive and just want to do anything to make us feel better. My sister-in-laws that I mentioned, Katie and Ashley, if they're watching, have been amazing. Like, it's so important to have a support system around you, and my friends have been so freaking incredible. If you have a friend going through this or a family member, just try to do something for them to brighten their day. One piece of advice I would say is, instead of just saying, let me know what I can do for you, offer specific things. Because when you're going through something like this, it's kind of hard to sit there and think about, oh, what could they do for me? And that's just like a very generic thing to say. And I know most people mean well, of course they do. But if you're like, hey, let me bring you dinner, what do you want? Or, hey, let's go here. What time do you want to go? You know, just having something specific in mind already, rather than just saying, let me know if you need anything, you know? Another piece of advice that I would give if you have someone in your life going through this is to ask them what they feel comfortable with. Everybody's different. Some people don't want to talk about it at all. Some people find it really therapeutic to talk about it. Ask them straight up, do you feel comfortable talking about it, or would you rather just, you know, talk about something else? And they'll probably give you a pretty honest answer. For me, I find it extremely therapeutic to talk about it to a certain extent. It's not all I want to talk about, but sometimes with the people who do know what you're going through, it can feel like the elephant in the room. So if I walk into a room and nobody really acknowledges it, it kind of feels odd. I think sometimes just addressing it, saying, are you okay? How are you holding up? You know, whatever, just kind of getting that out of the way. I don't know, for me, that kind of makes it seem like a safe space that kind of allows me to let loose and like enjoy my day or enjoy other conversations. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just how I am. Like, I know I'm different in that, but I don't mind if people ask me questions, you know? And same for you guys watching this. If you have questions, I'm here to answer whatever. Like, I obviously don't mind talking about it. It's something that if I have to go through it for any reason, I know that there's no reason on earth why this happens. It just happens. But if there has to be a reason, maybe it's so that I can share my experience with you guys and help somebody down the road who is just like me and was 25 years old and thought, no way that could ever be me. And now you're going through it and you're like, I'm so alone, even though you have people in your corner saying, you're not alone, I love you, I'm here for you, I support you. Even though you have those people, it can still feel like a really lonely place, even if you have the most supportive partner in the world, because my husband has been incredible. Like, I literally could not have done any of this without him. Like, I'm so thankful for him, but even they don't really understand like exactly like what your body is going through, and that can feel very lonely. So I hope that if you have any questions or just want to talk to somebody, you can always message me on Instagram. That's probably where I would see it more so, as to have a conversation. But of course, comment on this video too. We can all kind of chat. But I just hope that I help somebody through this. That's pretty much all I had to say. It's hard, but you'll get through it, and you'll come out a better person and hopefully a stronger couple afterwards. Anyways, it feels good to sit down and just kind of close this chapter in a way by telling you guys and just putting it all out there. It just feels really nice to kind of release everything. I don't know how to end this video either. I didn't know how to start it and don't know how to end it, but I love you guys so much. Thank you for always being supportive. Thanks for watching this really long video. I love you guys, and I hope that you're doing so well, and I hope that you never have to experience this in your life. But if you do, I'm here for you, and you are not alone, and you are amazing and so strong. Anyways, I think that's it. So, all right. Bye, you guys.